Education in Africa is undergoing a digital transformation as public and private stakeholders step up investment in ICT infrastructure and digitization of learning materials. On the sidelines of the just concluded Innovation Africa Summit in Nairobi, I spoke to the regional education industry manager at Microsoft. Take a look. Now, when we talk about the role of ICT in education in Africa, what has inspired this digital transformation that we are talking about across the continent?
The first is obviously demographic, and the traditional models of delivering education, because of the demographics, are struggling to cope. So in many countries, we don't have sufficient secondary schools to cope with the onflow of the primary school population. And so new ways of thinking about teaching, using technology to bridge the infrastructure gap, that's certainly one of the reasons why we see technology coming into education. The other reason is obviously the fact of the world having changed, and the world has moved on, and the needs of industry has also moved on. And so the way you prepare students or the next generation of workers for the 21st century has to also change, given that the requirements of work has also changed. And then, of course, I think the most pressing one is this new change in the world around us with mobility and data and the opportunity that presents to really create new industries, preparing the new generation of students for these new industries to drive impact. So if you take those three things together, it creates a fantastic opportunity to really look at education differently.
Now, we've seen ICT being a huge catalyst of growth in sectors like finance. In terms of uptake in education, where are we looking at Kenya and the East African region?
Well, unfortunately, the education sector has lagged behind if I look across Africa. It's rapidly changing. And certainly in Kenya, we see projects like the Digital Learning Program that creates a statement of intent by the government and the people of Kenya to rapidly transform the way education is delivered. So in many other countries, we're seeing these initiatives starting to take hold. And I think the reasons why we think these initiatives are taking hold is because I think there's a growing awareness that the very same benefits that have accrued to the financial sector, the telecommunications sector, etc., those benefits could actually be significantly magnified if thoughtfully applied into education.
When we talk about integrating ICT into education, there's quite a number of things involved in terms of curriculum changes, digitizing learning materials. How is this opening up an investment opportunity for Microsoft?
Absolutely, and I think as Microsoft, we certainly believe that our experience across Africa, and we've been working in education in Africa for about 12 years, has shown us that a comprehensive approach towards education transformation is required. And it's very seldom about a device or a network, etc. But it's about all of those things together. It's about curriculum reform, it's about digital content, it's about endpoint devices, it's about management systems, it's about teacher capacity development, it's about classroom orchestration and change. And so all of these areas are areas that we continue to work with governments to support them in improving.
Based on those gaps, what are the key focus areas for Microsoft in terms of investment?
The teacher has to be the center of this. And so we continue to think that teachers, and focusing on improving the quality of teachers and the quality of teaching, that's a fundamental part that we think that we want to continue to invest in. So through our Partners in Learning program, we've actually invested in multiple rounds of teacher training, introducing new technologies into the hands of teachers, and empowering those teachers through technology to drive impact and change within the classrooms. We're also, engaged with students and trying to encourage students to think about learning in a fundamentally different way.
Now, in terms of internet access, the gap is still very huge across the continent. How are you approaching that?
Through partnerships. But we certainly think that by vocalizing, the size of the opportunity to connect classrooms, connect students around the world to collaborate and exchange ideas, requires partnerships. We need partnerships with telco operators, we need partnerships with mobile phone operators, etc. You need teachers, you need innovative teachers who are working within the classrooms to transform the way teaching is done. And of course, you need digital content. And so by working in partnerships with a multitude of stakeholders, publishers and operators and device manufacturers, we're trying to find models whereby we can create cost-effective mechanisms to drive improvements in penetration of both mobile devices, etc., but also to solve for some of the difficult problems of last mile access.